right, I'm going to give the regular disclaimer here. This is a Twitter Spaces that is going live immediately post game after Charlotte has defeated Portland 2-0 at the bank. This is an instant reaction kind of show, so take it with a grain of salt. We're all pretty excited, and we may have very different opinions after we have a chance to sleep on it and get some of our lubrication out of our system. But I am feeling pretty great. I'm Level Up Luke, co-host of the Queen City Soccer Show, and as of right now, I am joined by Joe Garcia. Joe, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, Luke, thanks for having me on. I'm doing pretty dang good, man. It was a pretty solid win tonight. Not too much to complain about. It was nice to see Enzo finally get off the schneid and score a really nice goal. And Nikola Pekovic gets his first, which was a really solid goal, nutmegging the defender, before putting it in solidly. I thought the team has played much better defensively tonight than they have the past two or three matches, which was obvious. We were discussing it a little bit a couple of weeks ago. When having both Malanda and Burnout, we knew that there was going to be some time to get back up to speed again, and it looks like the back line was much better tonight.
Yeah, it felt like we were back to normal with that back line. It felt so comfortable. It felt so good to see. You had Yeri in the back. You had Privet just locking things down as usual. Molanda just, I mean, every game where I watch him play, I feel like I'm saying the same thing. God, I love watching him, but we're not going to have him for long. And tonight was another one of those nights where he just shows these flashes of brilliance and consistently great play. He's going to be playing in a top five league in Europe, and honestly, I could see him playing in the Premier League, maybe for a middle to lower table team. I really do think he has that level of talent, and he is so consistently great at such a young age. I'm so impressed. Nathan Byrne continuing his run of form this season, looking like an absolute dog out there, getting after it. And that's, one of the highest compliments I can possibly give. Up top, we had Big Pat, Patrick Ajaman. We had Yuri Tavares. We had Brecht Diagre. God bless Brecht, man. On the way home, I was listening to a cover of Separate Ways by Journey. And man, I think it might be time to go our separate ways with Breck, but I wanted him subbed off before the half. Every time he touched the ball, there was nothing productive coming from it. He looks like a sore thumb. He's completely out of place on the squad. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I have to agree, and I feel bad in a sense saying that because when he first came over last season, he stepped in and I thought he played really well, but this season he just seems really out of whack altogether. I mean, obviously he's got what is it now, 3 goal contributions this season. So I can't say he's terrible. It's just he doesn't look like he's right. Um, the one good thing out of tonight's game is I think that Pekovic definitely earned another run at the 10 spot next week. Kid looked really fantastic. I was kind of surprised that Dean subbed him out. But other than that, I mean, he had a really good game. As far as Pat goes, I thought Pat played pretty well. With the exception of a couple of times when he had the ball and he was trying to power through the defense, he had the opportunity a couple of times to pass off. While he had all that attention, he was drawing 2-3 defenders every time he touched the ball, and he could have passed off, but he's just so powerful when he makes those runs. The way he takes guys on is crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I thought Pat had a great game. You're going to get a little bit of the sloppiness. It's a really fast-paced position. There's a lot of split-second decisions up there at the top at the 9. But it was one of those things I just kept saying to my neighbors in the stands. Every time he got the ball, it seemed like I was saying, Enzo can't do that. Enzo can't do that. Hey, did you see that? Enzo can't do that. He just brings something completely different. The one-on-one chances, the creation, getting past guys, framing and bodying out defenders to secure the ball. I mean, there's just so much to his game. He's a completely different look at the nine, and I loved it. I thought you know, he easily could have had one or two tonight. And like you said with Pekovic, like I think he's probably the star of the game, in my opinion. He could have had a hat trick. I mean, dude was on fire. The one goal he got could be the goal of the week in MLS. It should at least be a contender. And then I don't know, man. Like I I have not always been very impressed by what I've seen from Pekovic, but I could see the potential and the talent was there. This is the second game where I feel like he's put together a really good performance, and this is the first game where I feel like I'm starting to see the results rather than just the potential. I think he's really showing that he could be like an outside consistent starter in MLS. He's getting to that level, and from watching him at Crown Legacy last year and coming in with substitute appearances this year, it's all been building up to this moment. And I think that goal is just going to put the rest of the league on notice that there is, a new player coming up. He's that outside, that kind of young DP, that U22 initiative kind of level player for Charlotte FC. And I think we're really seeing what Zoran saw and the scouting department saw when they signed him last year. Uh, it's pretty quiet right now, man. Just me and you. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. I had several other people say they were going to jump in. Um, but yeah, why don't you tell me what was the game day like for you? Because I got to the stadium maybe 20 minutes before kickoff. I really didn't pregame at all. But what was game day like for you?
Game day was actually at home this week. Nice and quiet. My son went to bed early tonight. He's a little bit older, but he went to bed early tonight. So I basically had the living room all to myself, so I could just concentrate on the game. I was able to relax with an adult beverage or two. But I actually, if you have a chance, you have to listen back to the broadcast with Jess and Willie P, because Jess was killing the referees tonight, and she was actually really funny. She was appalled at a few of the decisions that
Yeah.
that were going on. The fact that the one ref couldn't get 40 minutes into the game without getting a cramp, and she was really getting on him. But other than that, let me ask you. This is how I felt tonight watching Pekovic play, and we didn't have Abada and we didn't have Vargas in the lineup. Obviously, Vargas had yellow card accumulation, so he was out for a game, and we had Abada out. He picked up a knock, I guess, in training and practice, and he was out. And I really was thinking, man, imagine what the score might have been tonight had Abada and Vargas been on the pitch. I didn't think that Tavares had a great game at all, to be honest with you. But man, I'm thinking if Kerwin and Liel were on the pitch tonight, whether it was with Patrick or Capetti, I think the score would have been much different. I think it would have been a much higher scoring affair for us. I think.
That's a really good question. I like that as a hypothetical. What does the lineup look like if we have our starters in? I think the formation looks different if we have our starters, but I kind of liked the look with Tavares up top. And once again, I thought Brecht, he had one or two good moments, but it seemed like every time he touched the ball, it was just not good. It's not what I wanted to see. He was making a lot of mistakes, forcing the ball. I thought he should have been subbed out 20, 25 minutes earlier than he was. But I thought Tavares had a pretty good game, honestly. He was out of position a few times that I noticed. I didn't have the benefit of hearing any commentary, but just from watching, my seats are kind of just north of the vault, just a little further up the stands, so kind of elevated near the 50-yard line. So I get a pretty good sense of the field, but I miss any of the action in like any corner basically. Um, so I thought he was good. He was out of position a few times, like I said, but I like his height. I like his speed. I think he had some really good technical flourishes on the ball. He was dribbling around guys a few times, and he was really powering the ball through the Portland Timbers midfield and defense. I thought we broke lines throughout the game. I thought they looked completely outmatched. I think there were a few lapses that kind of allowed them to have some opportunities that maybe didn't give as clear of an indicator of momentum. But I do think that Charlotte really controlled the game throughout, and we could have won that 5 or 6-0. It could have looked like the Nashville game or the Miami game tonight, where it was just a goal palooza. Like I said, I thought Pekovic could have had a hat trick. The VAR seemed to be highway robbery. I mean, it looked like a clear and obvious penalty to everybody inside the stadium. You were watching on TV. Was that? I mean, I saw from Carol Rogers that VAR actually gave a yellow card for embellishment to Tavares. Was that accurate?
When I first watched it, it looked like it should have been a pen. Jess thought it should have been a pen. Lloyd thought it should have been. Actually, Lloyd thought that the ball was correct, not giving the penalty kick. I don't know so much about the embellishment, but
Well, Carol said that after VAR, they went back and gave Yuri a yellow card. Like, not
yeah,
only was it not a penalty.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It was so close that I don't know how they gave him a yellow. I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, it was very close.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the referee had a pretty solid first half from where I was sitting. I thought that VAR was, like I said, it appeared to be a clear and obvious, just pro referee standard operating practice, just to completely fuck Charlotte FC. But what are you going to do? He explained it. I liked hearing that over the loudspeaker, but from the replay in the stadium, watching it live and then watching the replays on the screen, it didn't back up what he was saying at all. So it was pretty confusing.
Well, yeah, on TV they only showed the one angle, so that angle to me, the angle that I originally watched, looked like a legitimate foul on Portland. So maybe there's something that they did see in another angle. I don't know, but
Well, and so just to continue with the ref point, I thought he had a pretty solid first half overall, but then the second half, it's like he completely lost the thread and lost the plot of the game. There were so many yellow cards issued to Charlotte on not only ticky tack, soft calls, but just non-existent calls. Like there was one right outside the box that resulted in an extremely dangerous free kick, and it was literally all ball. It was a clean touch, and so it shouldn't have been a foul to begin with. And even with the physicality, it might have been a soft foul. And he immediately cards up Charlotte FC. And then Westwood, as soon as Westwood walks over to him, he immediately cards him before it looks like Westwood even says anything. So my understanding is now Westwood's facing a suspension for yellow card accumulation. The ref completely, like I said, lost the plot. In stoppage time, he's giving out another yellow card when Charlotte FC is up 2-0 and the game should be over for just soft ticky tack bullshit. I was so ready to be complimentary of this ref, and then in the second half, it was just absurd. I mean, indefensible. And I'm going to kick it over to Len. I've been monologuing here, and obviously Patrick Ajman comes off, Enzo Capetti comes in. Enzo has one opportunity where he Enzo's it, and then he has another one where he's kicked clean in the face, straight red card, not called by the referee because of course it's not called by this referee. But I mean, it was textbook straight red card for extremely dangerous high kick to the face. Doesn't matter if you touch the ball; that's a straight red in my book. They showed it on the screen. It was the loudest the crowd was that entire night. um, it was absurd. Enzo responds by getting up and just completely break away one-on-one with the keeper, and he actually opens up his hips, keeps it low, slots it home, opens his account for the year. And I was waiting, I was looking, and I got the tweet from Len with Enzo fucking petty. I love it. Len, tell me about the game. Tell me about your boy scoring tonight.
Well, I was happy for him. It was padding on a game we probably would have won anyway, but I think that was good for his confidence, and yeah, I think it was good for the club as well. Luke, just to correct one thing, I think I just went back and looked. That yellow card for dissent wasn't on Westwood; it was on Bronico.
Wanaco.
Yeah, it was Bronico who
I'm
approached the ref.
okay.
And I caught that on the highlights. So Westwood did not get a yellow card tonight. So we're cool with him.
Okay, great. That's fantastic news. Thank you for that. I was really I made that mistake a few times because a lot of players were wearing white wristbands,
Yeah,
and I think that was throwing me off. But yeah, this is one of my few games where I was pretty much completely sober throughout. So my analysis should have been top notch. But as usual, I'm paying more attention to the vibes of the game than the details.
it's okay. It's all about the vibes anyway. So the one thing I did notice tonight, and I went back and looked after the game, because it seemed like we played most of the game in a 4-2-3-1, and then when Bronico came in, you could very much he switched to a 4-5-1 with
Right,
five
right.
midfielders across, and then sometimes in possession you could see Tavares move up front, and it almost like became a 4-4-2, sort of. Um, so Dean Smith kind of went that route, which was interesting. I don't know that I would have got as defensive with a 1-0 lead, but it worked out in the end. That's all that matters. The one thing I did notice, Luke, which I thought was really cool in the 4-2-3-1, is that our three our three attacking midfielders, if you will, which was Tavares, um, Diagare, and Petkovic. They all had 30 plus touches, all in the 30s, like 32, 34, and 36. And then the two sixes, Jabril Gianni and Westwood, had 60 touches each. That shows me that we were very kind of organized and consistent throughout the game, and that we were finally getting our three attacking midfielders with enough touches that really made a difference, you know? And you could see it in the first half. You're right, you said it before. We should have won that game probably 4-0 at the very least. And I'm sure Dean Smith will say the same thing in his presser, I'm willing to bet. Um, but be that as it may, we still got the win. Beautiful touch by Petkovic to go past those players. I was really encouraged
Beautiful.
to see him kind of grow into that 10 tonight. And granted, the Portland team wasn't as good as many of the teams we've played, but you can only play the team that's in front of you. And I thought Petkovic had a really strong game. I think all three players in that attacking midfield had a strong game, and so did Ajimang. He got tired after 60 minutes. Good call by Dean Smith to take him out, or 70 minutes, and we just needed fresh legs in there. So overall, I mean, it was a pretty good, except for Kalina's little first half, near the end of the first half, gaff that almost cost us. There really weren't too many mistakes tonight. It was probably a really great performance, for the whole team.
Yeah, and I was actually going to mention earlier because we had started going down the path of talking about formation. I really liked the look. I had said if we had our starting lineup, I think the tactics would have been completely different with Abada and Vargas. But I really liked, and Joe, I got sidetracked. I saw a shiny object and got distracted. But I really liked Petkovic drifting forward, basically playing on that attacking line for parts of the game. I'm not sure exactly what you call that tactically, but I know he was floating forward, and I really liked that chemistry between him and Ajiman. I thought there was some really good play, and even Tavares up there. Uh, and Len, I was saying, Brecht, dude, I'm over it. If we keep him on the roster, like to come in for 20 minutes here or there to sub out, that's fine. But like, we cannot have this dude playing 60 minutes a game. It's just not tenable for me. I wanted him subbed out probably around the 40-minute mark in the first half. Every time we touch the ball, it's like he just doesn't fit with the style of play of the rest of the team. And it's frustrating me so much now. And I was such a Brecht fan that I think I'm feeling even more bitter now because I liked him so much and I liked his style of play. But the more we're getting into Dean Smith ball, the less I'm seeing from him. Uh,
Yeah, I think he worked better last year when we had Swiderski, and Swiderski a lot of times almost played like a false nine. He was kind of moving all over the field. He would come back a lot into the midfield, and I think there was a little bit, just it was our style of play was a little bit different, and it suited Brecht a little better last year. I think you're right with Dean Smith. It doesn't, and I like the 4-2-3-1. When we play a 4-3-3, like I think we did last week when I was in New York at Yankee Stadium, I just feel like we lose continuity in that middle of the field. We don't. None of those three players in the midfield stepped up to create a fourth attacking option, if you will. Where tonight it was very obvious we had the one striker with Ajimang and three attacking midfielders. I think we struggle. So I would think even with Abada and Vargas coming back in, I'd love to stay with the 4-2-3-1 with those two guys on the outside and Pekovic in the middle at the 10. I'd love to see how that works next week.
yeah, totally. And I really liked, I know we've talked about it, especially earlier in the season, Nathan Byrne playing forward on the wing. He really gets into that attacking third and all the way up to the touchline. I love that look. I think he's extremely dangerous and he's a dog on the defensive side. He gets after it. He shuts guys down. He gets really physical. But then he also has that part of his game where he'll get forward. He can cross the ball in. He's not quite Jalen Lindsay, but honestly, he's so far improved from last season. I'm just bowled over by how well Nathan Burns playing. We
I,
have a few other folks that have jumped in here. So
just
Queen's
quickly on
Pitch,
that, look, if I can just respond to that,
sure,
I agree with you 400%. The only caveat I would put on that is that's as long as Melanda and Privet are playing in the center back position. Once Tuoloma's
facts.
back there, then we can't afford to have Byrne up there because those two then we kind of change the whole chemistry in the back.
Yeah, facts. I think Tuoloma, man, he's out of step with the rest of that line. I was saying before you jumped in, God, it felt good to watch that back line tonight. The starters are back. They have such great chemistry. I mean, they shut down that box to force shots and passes outside to really low percentage areas, and they'll completely give you the sides of the field to work with. But as soon as you cross it in, everything is shut down immediately. Privet is lethal, dude. He's the Terminator. He's just going to absolutely end a play no matter what. And 90% of the time, 95% of the time, he does it without a foul. It's unbelievable. I mean, there was one play where they crossed it straight into the box, maybe 5 yards out from goal. It was extremely dangerous, and Privet just gets his head on it and sends it clear out of bounds. I mean, the dude will eliminate any opportunity in his area. He's the best value on the pitch by far. Love watching him. And then Malanda is not long for this team. It's a blessing that we have him. I'm enjoying watching it, but I know he's not long for MLS. He's going to go to Europe and be a big name, I'm sure. Yeah, I was saying we do have Queen's Pitch on. If you want to jump up, I'm not sure if that's Bridget or Kara, but would love to hear from you. Um, what a night, man. Crazy weather. It looked like it was going to be raining and storming throughout. We didn't have any delays. There were a few little sprinkles, but overall, weather was pretty good. I didn't even need the windbreaker that I brought with me. I had my 5-year-old. We came straight from his birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese's this afternoon to free comic book day at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find in Charlotte. That was a blast. And then straight into Uptown, dodging the concert traffic and all the crazy drugged out pedestrians to hit Rhino Market for a little iced coffee and into Bank of America Stadium. What a day. It has been quite a blast. And then we cap it off with that 2-0 win. 3 points, much needed, defend the keep. Back to our winning ways at home. Len, were you at the game tonight?
I actually was not. I last minute I couldn't go, and I ended up giving my tickets away to somebody, a friend of mine. So it's the first game I've missed this year. So I was kind of bummed out about that, but at the same time, I was able to catch the game at home. I just had to be at home for something.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, attendance was noticeably down. The listed attendance was 27,000. I mean, I think we probably had around 20,000 in the building. It still felt loud and energetic. It didn't feel like it was as dampened as that game a few weeks ago that was just a, you know, throwaway. But I mean, it was a interesting game day. And I'll kick it over to Queen's Pitch. Tell me about your game day experience and what were your thoughts on the game tonight?
Hello, it's Bridget. Still trying to get home in this traffic. People are not knowing how to drive tonight. Anyway, I digress. One of the cool things, I don't know if y'all talked about Enzo being benched. We, in the presser afterwards, when they were we asked, well, we didn't, but someone asked Dean why he benched Enzo, and he was very frank. He said he thought Enzo didn't do a good job last week. So he told Enzo that he didn't think he did a great job, so he was going to sit down, and it was his decision. And he's the coach, and that's what they pay him to do. And so Enzo was going to sit down.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we talked on the Queen City Soccer Show this week. You cannot start Enzo. It's just common sense at this point. His performance has been so bad as of late. He's not scoring. He's not doing the things he needs to do. He needs to get right. And I'm just as happy as anybody that tonight was that get right game against Portland. I think it was a get right game, not only for Enzo, but for the rest of the team as well. We've been in a bit of a slump lately, and this really does change things around for us.
I think so too. I think it gave the fact that Petrovic did so well, or Nikolai, the fact that he did so well is really good. It's showing promises that, seeing that we don't have a Bada right now, we probably won't have him for probably a month or so. That's the rumor.
Whoa.
So
Breaking news.
Well, we don't know for sure, but that's the rumor that was going around. It might be about a month, hopefully not as much. And then, we don't have him, and then we didn't have Vargas. So if we can rely on our younger guys to come in, and we don't even need our DP. And Breck doesn't count as a DP. I don't care what anyone says. I feel like we have chance. After last week I didn't, but this week I feel like it was great signs of progress. And then Bender's coming back. By the way, we are releasing a Bender interview tomorrow or Monday, so be on the lookout for that. But Bender is coming back in the next week or two. So with him coming back, I just think that we do have a lot of signs of promise out there, even though we don't have the DPs that we want right now.
Yeah, and we had that MLS roster information come out this past week. It's been requested for several years. I mean, going back, I think 5-10 years, I remember seeing people asking for this kind of detailed roster information for every team, especially with Inter Miami, who seems to be flouting every single roster rule and restriction in the league. But they put out the information on every squad. And it was a little bit of a surprise to see that Breck Diagre was listed in a DP slot. Of course, that is with the asterisk that he is TAM eligible. His contract can be bought down to a non-DP role, but there's no reason to do that until you actually have somebody who's going to occupy that fourth DP slot. So for the moment, he is technically on paper occupying a DP slot. That's his overall salary hit is probably somewhere in the 700 to 900,000 range, which is above the roster max of 680,000, I think. So
I thought he was getting paid like 1.25. I thought Breck's getting paid like 1.25.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, it's still in the TAM eligible range. So that goes up to like that 1.2, 1.3. So it could be that high. I thought we got him on a free. So I didn't think his actual salary was that high. And his acquisition cost was lower than that, but I could be mistaken.
I could totally be mistaken with that.
But, well, we don't have Vaughn Pullman on here. And every time I talk to Vaughn, he corrects me on everything that I say regarding roster stuff. So, but yeah, let's talk about the referee. Bridget, what were your thoughts on the ref performance tonight? Because we touched on it a bit earlier.
I didn't think the ref did a good job tonight. I think there was a lot of calls the ref missed, and I don't know where he was, what he was thinking, what he was doing. Even I think Jess was telling us after the game that there was weird because he would make calls against us that Portland would do the same thing on the other end and we wouldn't get the calls. So if you're going to do it, just do it all across the board, but not one way or the other.
Yeah, and I kind of saw that in the first half. It looked like Portland was getting really frustrated with the ref, and then in the second half, it just he lost the plot, he lost the thread. It turned into a bunch of nonsense. I'm not sure what was up with a ref cramping on a pretty cool 65-degree evening in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, this isn't Miami, Florida. I don't know if the guy was ran out of electrolytes or what the deal was, but he was down for 5-6 minutes at least. And I think I read from Carroll that they actually brought in a replacement, an alternate ref to take that spot. It just seemed kind of absurd as the game went on. The 80th minute, there was that whole fracas around the outside of the Charlotte box that turned into a free kick opportunity that should have never happened. And I think we got 2 yellow cards on that sequence. And I don't know, man. I just completely lost what respect I had built up for this ref around the halftime mark. It was gone by the final whistle. But it's pro refs. What are you going to do? It's the same thing. New week, same song. Any thoughts? Any before we close out the ref conversation?
Hey, Ashley didn't get a yellow.
So
So that means we keep him around for another week. So
yeah,
that's good because Ashley's riding the 4 yellows. So Ashley has to go another 4 games without a yellow to get one wiped. But if he gets one in the next 4 games, he's out of game as well. And we can't lose Ashley right now.
yeah. I thought he got a yellow twice in that game, and I thought in the 80th minute he was the one who got the yellow for dissent. But Len corrected me, and I breathed that sigh of relief when I heard that.
Oh yeah, it was Bronico, and Bronico got one too, and then I was really frustrated. I was really because Ashley walked up right after Bronico, and I was like, "Please back off, Ashley. Please back off. Whatever you do, back off." And he did.
He was, I mean, he was towing the line. Like he took the ball away from a free kick spot, and the ref was like yelling at his back, and he just threw it over his back to return it. And I was like, dude, you are skating a thin line here.
He said, I had asked him because I chat with him, and I asked him earlier in the week if he was going to do anything different because he has the 4, and he said absolutely not. He was going to do the same thing. He was just going to try to keep his mouth shut if he could. So, I mean, I think he did better than he has done. I mean, he is the captain. He had a hold of that ball when it was that PK, too. He had that ball. He was not going to let go of that ball. I got tickled on that one, too.
Yeah, like you said, we can't afford to lose him. I think Vargas going out for yellow card accumulation is it hurts. I think that accumulation rule is pretty fucking stupid. Like if you can't challenge or get a yellow card rescinded if it's incorrectly given, which I have not heard of that happening. But it seems like if you're going to suspend somebody for 5, like only 5 yellow cards, and there's no mechanism to rescind a incorrect or like a um faulty. I don't know. Like these refs make mistakes, and we had replacement refs for half the season so far. Um, a lot of these cards I've seen given have just been completely nonsensical. So you're going to punish players for that. It seems unfair.
Agreed.
Great. Well, we're sitting at 11:20. We've been going for a little bit over half an hour. Any thoughts on player of the game?
Pekovic.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
Pekovic. I would agree with Joe.
Yeah, and he talked afterwards. He talked as well. He's so humble. They asked him what he thought, like what he was thinking about when it was leading up to his goal, and he was like, "I was not thinking at all." He's like, "I was just wanting to shoot," and so he's just out there to make shots and to do it. And he said he doesn't think about it; he just does it, and that's somebody we need that's out there to play. So I think he did a great job.
Yeah, I think Bridget's cutting out a little bit, but Pekovic makes a lot of sense. I think he had a breakout game tonight. That should be an MLS goal of the week contender. I think Enzo had a good get right game, but I mean he was only in there for like 20 minutes. Len, as far as Enzo, do you feel like this is how do you feel like this changes Enzo's season?
I don't know that it's going to be hard because him and Patrick have such different styles. You know, Patrick always tries to turn and take players on one. You saw a couple times and this is not a criticism of him. This is more about his youth and maybe lack of a little bit more experience than Enzo does have. Even Sam Lloyd said on TV there were a couple instances where he had options to pass the ball left and right on breaks and he didn't. His instinct, which is it's a good one to have, is always to beat the player in front of him no matter what and to kind of zone out what's going on around him. Where Enzo does kind of hold and look around. That's the difference in the play styles. That's why folks who say Enzo's not worth anything, I think they get it wrong. They're different styles, and so I don't know how Dean Smith figures out which one to play because they're very different from each other. They both have attributes that are positive, and they both have a couple of shortcomings. You know, Enzo's is more consistency, and Patrick's is inexperience. So if we can get those two to be more consistent, I think Enzo's still an important player on the team. For this team to be consistently good this year, he's going to have to play a role in that, whether he's coming off the bench or Patrick is in some situations. And I think they're both going to get a fair number of starts. I don't think it's going to be hard for me to see one over the other unless they show it on the field.
Yeah, I got to agree with Len here. I mean, to be honest with you, neither one of them is the clear-cut winner of the number 9 position, to be honest. Um, like Len said, they both have different attributes. They both play different styles of game, but not like it. To me, it doesn't matter. They're interchangeable at this point. Either Enzo can come start the game and really work the defense with his motor, with his running at them all game, and then bring in Pat to go after a tired defense, or Pat can come in and try to outmuscle the defense to start a game, and then bring Enzo in, to just show a different look and have the defense off balance. Either way, like I said, there's no clear cut winner.
I love Patrick. The only misgiving I've ever had about him is because of his nature to turn and try to score as quickly as possible. When we have people like Abada and Vargas in the game, they could get lost and not get as many chances and touches because Patrick has this I've got to do it kind of attitude. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but my concern is that that takes Vargas and Abada more out of the game, unless they're receiving long balls from the back. So that's kind of the way I look at the game. They're just different. That's all there is to it. They're just different. And
Yeah,
it's a long
I
season. We're going to need them both because one of them's going to go down with a, as Dean would say, a niggling injury here and there. One of them is going to get hobbled during the year. So they're both going to have to be productive if we're going to have a good result this year. So we can't throw either of them out.
I think that's really the key point. I think you hit the nail on the head. We need a starter and a backup. We need two guys, and depending on the opponent, I think because they offer such different things, there could be matchup advantages one way or another. I'm glad to see that Enzo has displayed more humility this year than he did last year. Um, on this past week's show, I I might have gone a little bit too far, but I would rather see Enzo act like a jerk and score a bunch of goals than act like a nice guy and completely whiff on every opportunity. So if it comes down to personality or results, I'm going to go with results for my striker. But at the same time, Patrick is humble and creates opportunities completely on his own and scores. He has that physicality that drives MLS backlines insane. You can see that with Portland tonight, with him basically just in a boxing match and just knocking guys out of the way. And I also liked Tavares for that reason. I think we had our big guys out there and it created a tactical mismatch with Portland from where I was sitting. Um, with subs, Bronico and Urso coming in, I feel like those two don't necessarily have a lot of chemistry together. I feel like they're not like best friends off the pitch, but in my head, they absolutely should, and they could be like buddy cops where they're both the bad cop, and like the Bash Brothers or something. Those two are like the grind set dudes, and they both came in late in the game and had some good moments. I really like seeing them come in relief just to annoy the hell out of our opponent. I would like to see more of that. What did you guys think about the subs? Tiger Smalls, Urso, Bronico. We already talked about Enzo. Is there anyone I'm missing?
No, I think that was it. No, I think the subs were. I think they played well. Bronico and Urso kind of add that enforcer kind of attitude. The only thing I was worried, and my son was here watching the game with me. He said, Dad, do you think they're getting a little too defensive, a little too early? That's what I was worried about because taking out Petkovic, like Petkovic still had legs in him. I was surprised Dean took him out
Totally
so
agree.
fast. You know?
I mean, Brecht should have been the first one out because
Yeah.
he should have been out at the 40th minute, in
Yep.
my opinion.
Yep.
But Pekovic, I was like, oh, how you took out the wrong guy. But no, Dean went super defensive last week against New York City as well, from what I remember. And I know it's the first year of this transition and of the Dean Smith era. So I understand the inclination to urge towards the conservative approach, but I really thought we had Portland's number and I thought we could run it up on them. So I really would have liked to see Enzo and Pat both on the pitch, maybe replace Brecht with Enzo just to get both of them out there. And then, save Pekovic a little bit longer before you put in, a midfield sub. But that's just me. I mean, I really thought we could have scored 5 or 6 goals tonight with just the mismatch that I was watching.
Yeah, I agree with you, Luke. I mean, it was there for the taking. There were more goals in that game.
And goal differential is going to come into play. We need to run up the score, especially at home. As we get later in the season, we could look back and say, oh, I mean, if we had 2 more goals against Portland, that goal differential could be a tiebreaker or a deciding factor whether or not we make a playoff spot. So,
Yeah.
it's a golden opportunity, man. I'm a big fan of running it up because like Miami put up 6 tonight. Nashville put up 5 or 6 tonight. I mean, there's other squads doing damage, and they're going to get their goal differential numbers up, and we could be competing against them in 3 or 4 months in terms of our spot in the table, our playoff hopes on the line, like they were last year, right down to decision day. And it's not going to happen every week. I mean, we see it week in and week out in this league. Um, Goals are not necessarily easy to come by for us. With Abada being out for potentially a few more weeks here, I'm a little concerned. What do you guys see for the lineup next week? We still have Westwood, but apparently Abada is going to be out. Bender might be coming back. What are you guys thinking for a lineup?
I'm hoping he stays with the 4-2-3-1 and he just keeps Petkovic in the middle with Vargas and Abada on the outside. He can start Patrick or Capetti. I don't think it really matters. Kind of, we're playing Nashville, right? Um, I wouldn't mind seeing Patrick in there against them, maybe to start the game, and then the same in the back that we had tonight. I mean, you could switch out Lindsay if you wanted to for a change, but other than that, I say you just stay with that. I just don't like the 4-3-3. I don't think the team plays the same way. So we play with the 4-3-3. That whole middle midfield just seems to act different and not as cohesive to me anyway with the front like we saw tonight. So hope he stays with that, and that's what I'd love to see.
All right, Joe, let's wrap it up, man. What do you think for next week?
Let's see. Well, considering Abada looks like, as of right now, from what Bridget was saying, Abada might be out the next 3-4 weeks. You know what? I'm willing to experiment a little bit, and maybe when Vargas comes back, he goes back on the left, and maybe we let Tiger Smalls get a start on the right, have
Bold. I like it.
Have Pat start, right? Give Enzo another week on start, coming off the bench later in the match. Maybe bring him in a little bit earlier than this past week, depending on what Pat's doing.
Would you sub him out for Tiger if you have Tiger in the starting lineup, or would you automatically trade him out for Pat?
I would say if we're up in the game, you bring him in for Pat. If we're even or losing at that point, then you sub Tiger out for Enzo. But it really does depend on where we're at. And I would say, let Tiger get a run, and then you could bring Brecht in later in the match if he looks like he's gassed or he's not giving you much. If you have to, you know what I mean? But I definitely wouldn't be starting Brecht next week for sure. I could tell you that much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse on this one. But I think you absolutely have to make a change at least that position. Vargas is coming back, so I think that's the easy fix. So Vargas, Tavares, and Big Pat up top starting. Conflicted though, because I like Enzo better early in games, and I like Pat better later in games. So as much as I love seeing Pat on the pitch, if it's a choice between the two, I would almost rather start Enzo and just be ready to give both of them a half a play, rather than, declaring one a firm starter. Maybe it's like you get the first half, you get the second half, because Pat against guys with tired legs is lethal. It's such a mismatch. And, against a Nashville team that just scored 6 goals tonight, I mean, it seems like Sam Sturridge is getting his feet back under him. Hani Mukhtar, they have some weapons. Might need to beat him up a little bit, but I think our back line is going to absolutely neutralize their attackers like we did in Nashville. All right, guys. Well, hey, I think that's pretty much going to do it for tonight. We've been on here for about 45 minutes, and it's a good night. Let's celebrate. I'm going to drink a little bit more tequila here, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, Luke. Good night,
For the Crown.